Welcome back to the channel. So for this video, I'm going to be going over the 5 best books that I've read this year. All of these books have the quality of leaving me with just lessons to mull over, just having thinking about it for weeks, sometimes months on end afterwards, and having my life trajectory slightly shifted after each of these books because of the lessons I've learned from them. Now, as far as the criteria that I'm using to gauge whether these books are great, and all of them fit within the 4.5 to 5 star range, they're all that good. But there's 3 criteria that are tiered. The first thing is the characters. Um, are the characters relatable? Do they have depth? Are they interesting? Are they superficial? You know, the second thing that I consider is whether, and this applies to both main and side characters, by the way, the relationships between the two. The second thing is the plot. Is the plot gripping and or like quietly profound? Um, how interesting is it? And the third quality that I consider in this list is the engagement. Is it consistently engaging from start to beginning? Um, Obviously, depending on the world building that's involved and just the complexity of the plot, you'll have lull periods yeah, throughout a book, but you can still maintain engagement. Um, some authors are worse than doing that than others, and I found that in some of the books that I've read. Um, but yeah, before I get started with the list, I also do want to add that, like I said, or didn't say, I don't remember if I did, these books span various genres, right? In the past, I've really just read self help books or informational books. Those have been my go to because I thought they'd have immediate application, right? And benefit in that way. But I found that, at least in the self help genre, they can get very formulaic. Um, and I'll make a separate video on that in the future if it's requested, but I do want to make it. I found a new joy and benefit and just value in reading fictional books, reading literature or fiction, um, because you just get a different value um, and depth from books where you can just relate to the characters, right? And from books where you learn from the journey because you resonate with that journey in some way, shape, or form. Because the human condition is consistent no matter where you are. You can relate to people in any front, right? So yeah, this fiction genre is definitely going to be added to one of my defaults from here on out. But with that said, let's get right onto it. So the first book on this list is called Brothers. It's by Yu Hua and it's within the historical fiction genre. This is a brief synopsis. It's like a bold and gritty portrayal of 2 brothers navigating China's rapid transformation during its Cultural Revolution during the mid to late 20th century. It has moments of just intense dark humor and emotion, and it captures the highs and lows of the relationships between these 2 brothers and just like the human condition. Um, it's a very turbulent era, and it's evident from the humor and the tragedy that the characters face. As far as some of the good from this book, it's just raw and unflinching, um, and it balances dark humor and just brutal emotional depth incredibly well. It switches between the POV of each of these brothers, or stepbrothers, actually, and other accessory characters, but mainly these 2 brothers. And it's just a unique narrative voice that pulls you into each of the characters' worlds. I remember like a specific example in the earlier chapters of the book, um, where their childhood innocence just in real time dissipates, and it's just juxtaposed with the chaos of adulthood, and it highlights how the relationship evolves from that incident as they grow older. And that just story is it's really engaging. um I do think that towards the end of the book the narrative was a little more sporadic. It wasn't as easy to follow. uh some readers found the like later chapters a little more excessive as far as the depictions of violence goes. Not really for me. I'm personally all for that. The grittier, the better. So for this book, I want to give it um, a 5 out of 5. I liked it that much. It's definitely. I read it just last month, actually, towards the tail end of this year. Um, and as far as a lesson that I learned, uh, so I actually learned a weird lesson because I was going through a certain block in my life at this time, and the character Baldy Lee, who grew up as a peeping tom in his village, had tainted his reputation seemingly irreparably. Um, he developed himself into this multimillionaire entrepreneur who came from nothing. He became a multimillionaire and contributed to China's GDP independently, like a significant portion of it independently from making a business out of selling trash, out of selling scrap. And his brother Song Gang, I just related to his character so much. He has this like quiet but loyal nature, and it's just amidst the chaos of everything that's happening. So 5 out of 5 book. I definitely recommend for whoever's interested. All right, on to the next one. Okay, this is one of the first books that I read this year. It was a long one, and it was the kickoff to the fantasy genre for me. It's the Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. It's within the fantasy fiction genre. It's an emotionally charged fantasy that combines epic battles with like deep family dynamics. It's a story about love and loss and strength found in vulnerability. If you are an Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, you will definitely enjoy this book. Just as far as the world building elements, and when it comes to having the power to control elements, just geopolitical conflict between neighboring states, just all that stuff. A lot of similarities to that show. I think that's why I may be a little biased in liking it, but regardless, I would have loved it. As far as the good, it's like very powerful and emotional as far as the writing goes, and it has these like incredibly vivid and descriptive battles. It keeps you engaged throughout every damn near every chapter. Honestly, it has complex family dynamics, and at the time, I was dealing with a lot of family stuff myself. So, in that way, I was able to gain perspective through relating to another character who was also going through something similar. Uh, though characters are all like strong-willed, uh, just and there's a death that happens kind of early on in the book that is incredibly tragic. If you know, you know. If you don't, you'll find out. It mixes just action and like heart wrenching, dramatic scenes incredibly well. As far as the bad, the pacing in the middle of the book was a little uneven at times. It uses kind of heavy fantasy jargon, and for somebody who was just kind of kicking off their streak with fantasy, it seemed a little unfamiliar. I will give it a 4.5 out of 5. Still amazing book. Recommend strongly for everyone to read. Um, Great book overall. The detailed battle scenes were some of the best that I've read in any book. So if you're into that, you will definitely enjoy this one. As far as a lesson learned, you know, the relationship that the two main characters have, and the growth that they experience, taught me, patience with relationships that I was maybe struggling with at the time of my life. So definitely recommend this book. Add it onto the list. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. The next book is entitled Secrets of Divine Love: A Spiritual Journey into the Heart of Islam by A. Helwa. It's within the spirituality kind of inspirational theological genre, which is not something I typically get into. This was a fantastic book. I This has a brief synopsis. It's like a heartfelt exploration of Islam's spiritual teachings through uh, Quran and Hadith. It bridges faith and personal growth, and it offers like deep reflections on divine love and the connection with God. I found I'm always a little skeptical about theological books in general, regardless of what belief system it aligns with, because they can a lot of the times be evangelical. This book was not that at all, although there were sections where it gave that impression. Overall, it wasn't. It was the writing and the verbiage that was used was amazing. Um, Obviously, there was no characters, but it was really just um, breaking down the background and um, the spiritual rationale behind a lot of the practical teachings that are prevalent in the religion. So it was nice just to kind of get that background information and just the bridging that it offered and in aligning itself with other belief systems that exist out there and to unify this definition of God, right? It just tries to rationalize some of re- the the backing of some of the practical things within the religion as a means to bridge that connection between you and God, and thereby connecting with other people in general. Great book. Um, 5 out of 5, most definitely a 5 out of 5. Um, the life lessons learned from this one is just a reminder, I guess, of some of the things that you kind of already intuitively know when it comes to practicing gratitude, maintaining a relationship with God, um, being, patient, and just the definitions of of God and thereby of love, right? Um, Fantastic book. Again, 5 out of 5. Definitely recommend. Okay, so the next one on this list is 1Q84. I kept on saying IQ84 because that's what it looks like as far as the text that's written on the title of the book. So I kept on saying it wrong when I was describing it to people. It's by Haruki Murakami. It's within the fantasy, kind of sci-fi and surreal fiction genre. It is by far the longest book that I read this year. It took me about a month, a little over a month actually, to finish it. It's about 1,200 pages, at least the version that I had. But it was worth it, and it's so satisfying at the end. It's a surreal journey through alternate realities, alternate universes, which revolve around love and identity. Uh, Murakami, he weaves the dreamlike narrative filled with mysteries, vivid symbolism, and just deeply haunted characters. Uh, like the other books I've mentioned, it switches POVs between several characters, but primarily between the two main ones, Tengo and Aomami. I realized later that Aomami is it means green beans, like edamame, the word edamame, which I thought was interesting. Anyways, uh, as far as the good with this one, it's incredibly the descriptions and the writing with the prose was just so smooth. It was so easy to read, and the magical realism was just incredibly engaging. It had like this ethereal kind of atmospheric and immersive environment that was maintained throughout most chapters. It had like a unique structure alternating between characters just to keep the story engaging and fresh kind of. And the two moons motif, simple as it kind of aligned itself with themes of like nature and dreams and stuff like that. And that's kind of reflected in the two moons motif. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about because you read the book. If you don't, you'll need to read it. Um, I don't want to spoil it, but a twist happens in the middle that you don't expect. Uh, it's an incredible book. I will say though that Murakami as an author gives kind of Oedipus Freud vibes. He kind of crosses the line a little too much when it comes to the relationship between Tengo and his mom, and just the relationship between younger and older men in general. Kind of cross several lines. I don't know if Chris Hansen from Dateline NBC would be okay with that. So it was weird in that way. Um, yeah, and as far as another negative more aspect, I guess the plot raises questions that aren't really fully answered at the end, and that's, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is dependent on the reader. I don't really mind it myself. Um, the pacing can feel slow at times, especially in the middle third, and the ending of the book for me personally was a bit anticlimactic between, at least the ending between like Tengo and Ayomame, just based on the anticipation and buildup that was created throughout the book. Those are the only negatives, though. Besides that, I think I'll give this one also a 4.25. I'll give this one a 4.25. Amazing book. Definitely recommend. Um, but yeah, as far as a lesson learned from this one, it was just to like trust your instincts at times of uncertainty and to have patience during those times. Um, Related to Tengo a lot, he had this like quiet resolve and desire to understand his purpose, and he just kept on trudging along, just doing what he can to control the situation. Really resonated with that character. But that's it for this book. We're gonna get on to the next one. All right. Okay, so for the last book, it is The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran. I think that's how you say it. It's within the poetry kind of philosophy, borderlines on theology. It's kind of a lyrical meditation on life's universal truths, kind of reminiscent of a book like The Alchemist. Similar themes to the other spiritual book that I mentioned in this video. It offers like profound reflections on freedom and sorrow and love and just like the human condition. Each chapter stands alone as a timeless gem of wisdom. So the way it's segmented makes it easy to kind of follow and to kind of compartmentalize the individual lessons that the author's trying to convey. It was incredibly great in that way. Um, the book was beautifully written. It has like timeless lessons on basic things like friendship, talking, how to maintain a relationship, how to maintain your home, love, death, just general bits of wisdom that are incredibly written. Each chapter is like a standalone reflection. It's perfect for revisiting specific sections. It's deeply profound, but it's incredibly simple in its nature. Um, and it sets the scene of a guy, a prophet, that um, he lands on this city or island, not sure exactly, and he just espouses this information as individual characters uh, approach him with questions. Um, as far as the bad, some might find in fact I found the language a little overly poetic. I don't really read poetry too often. More of a prose kind of person. So it was overly poetic and a bit abstract. So I found myself having to reread certain sections over and over again. It has the benefit, obviously, of getting to mull over the information, but yeah. Besides that, the book is incredibly short. It took me 2 days to read. In aggregate, probably like 2 to 3 hours in total to read it. Very short. You can finish it in an evening if you have the patience. Um, yeah. The general lesson, I guess, that I'll give this is that true happiness comes from embracing all aspects of life. When it comes to the bad, the good, the in between, and that you should be grateful for all of it because there is hidden opportunity and hidden value in things that don't seem like they would. You're not able to relate to suffering unless you've suffered yourself. You're not able to connect with people in that way unless you've been through that experience. This is an example. Um, so yeah, incredible book, evergreen kind of lesson that you can get from it. Um, Yeah, as far as the character, there's only one really character in the book. Everyone else is kind of described incredibly vaguely. They're transient characters, not really involved in the stakes of the book. And it ends with him leaving the island as mysteriously as he came in. Incredible book. I'll give this one a 4.5 out of 5. Very revisitable, and I definitely recommend. Okay, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments if you've also read any of these books, what your thoughts are, um, and leave comments for the books that you read this year that left uh, of lesson learned, or a life change, or it just had an effect on you. If you want typical YouTuber just line, like, subscribe, comment. Um, I'm always replying to the comments. I love to engage. And yeah, I have a Calendly link on my bio in the video and in my channel for some of the offerings that I have, as well as a newsletter and toolkit that I started, which is free, that you can subscribe to if you choose to do so. Anyways, that's it for the video. Appreciate you watching, and I will catch you on the next one. All right, peace.